The New York Times bestseller sheds light on the extreme measures adopted by Israel to protect its sovereignty. And thank you very much for speaking to us here on Middle East Matters. Tell us about how this project came together. Your book was 8 years in the making. You conducted hundreds of interviews and read through thousands of pages of documents.
The reason why it took so long was it's very, very hard to write a book about the history of arguably the most secretive organization on earth, the Israeli Mossad, and its secret operation, and at the peak of that, Israeli use of assassination and targeted killing. And I have written the book because I think that there's no way to understand not just the history of Israeli intelligence, as interesting as it is, but understand the history of Israel and the history of the region without first getting the facts right on the history, the secret history of Israeli intelligence, which has I would say a secret but profound impact on how events occurred and developed in the last 70 years since Israel was established.
As I mentioned earlier, you actually interviewed tens of intelligence and defense officials, and it didn't seem like much of a challenge to get them to talk, certainly not for you. But what do they stand to gain here?
Well, you see the book, which has references to 1,000 interviews with 1,000 interviewees. From Prime Minister, Minister of Defense, Chiefs of Staff, Chiefs of the Mossad, to the actual operatives and assassins. Some of them it took some years to convince. But I would say that each source has his own agenda and motives why to talk. But in trying to make some sort of a rule, I would say that these people who were kept in the dark and didn't elaborate and didn't say anything about the things that they have done throughout the years want these days to make sure that their footprint is set up right in history. Their footprint, including their participation in things that could be seen as at least controversial, the sabotage, the use of physical pressure during interrogation, assassinations. But these people, according to the way that they perceive themselves and the way that the Israeli nation perceived them, they are not murderers. They are the people who took whatever needed in order to defend Israeli citizens and Israeli national security.
But I'm sure it doesn't come as a surprise that some officials in the country have since tried to somewhat discredit you and your book because, of course, this targeted assassination program was not meant for public consumption, was it?
No, not at all. But I don't think... in fact, I know that no one challenged the facts. People could say that this is, and we received all sorts of criticism. Some pro-Palestinian or pro-Arab media outlets said that this is an Israeli propaganda, aims just to glorify the Mossad. Some right-wing media in Israel said that this is a left-wing, radical, anti-Israeli propaganda. And you know, when you are attacked so severely from all sides, that probably means that you have done something right.
Why was there such an obsession with assassinating PLO leader Yasser Arafat?
And they thought that if they kill him, they would kill the Palestinian problem, which is one of the main problems with targeted killings. You kill a leader and you think you kill the problem, which, you know, in most of the cases, if not all of them, turn out to be a mistake. And it evolved into an obsession of Minister of Defense Sharon, until he even ordered to take down an airplane with civilians and innocent people just in order to kill Yasser Arafat on board. However, courageous senior and junior officers of the IDF and the Israeli Air Force refused that order. They practically declared mutiny against Sharon and said, we are not going to do this. They did not challenge the legitimacy of killing Arafat. They thought that Arafat could be or should be killed, but they said, we are not going to kill civilians.
Now, you write about the assassinations of Hamas rings, attacks on PLO targets, as we just talked about that, the killings of Iranian nuclear scientists, over 2,700 operations in Israel's modern history. Is this lethal technique, in your opinion, effective in deterring, quote, terrorism?
The conclusion of the research of this voyage journey of the last 8 years is that when targeted killing are done against the operative level, when it's done systematically as a part of an overall strategy, when it's done against these people who are the threat and not the people that could be killed, and when it's not done as a sort of a measure to show your public that you're doing something, the result and the lesson is that yes, it in some cases very effective.
Ronan, shouldn't there be a difference, certainly from a moral standpoint, because these Iranian nuclear scientists don't fall under the terrorist category that these assassinations claim to target?
Well, there is a difficulty here. The Iranian nuclear scientists were not part of terrorist operation. They were part of a scientific military project of a sovereign state. And what they did was part of their job for their country. On the other hand, they were part of a secret nuclear project aiming at acquiring nuclear weapon of a country that calls for the destruction of Israel and doing a lot in order to kill Israelis and harm Israeli national security.
And would you say that these attacks are legal within the international framework?
Well, I would assume that if these actions are brought to some of the jurists, they would say that killing a terrorist, even when he's off work at bed at night, is legal. And I would assume that killing a nuclear scientist working for a sovereign state would be seen by the international law experts as illegal.
Ronan Bergman, thank you for speaking to us here on France 24 about your book, Rise and Kill First, The Secret History of Israel's Targeted Assassinations. It's a real page-turner.